so I'm waiting for him to finish his shit up.
Uh,
Cool. I
fucking
think you can go live now.
sunglasses.
Can go.
Okay, hey everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the Echo Point Cape Town podcast. I almost called it by its old slave name, so I'm glad I remember that. My name is SunPhoenix, and I'm joined by somebody sniggering in the background. CloudBurst, as usual.
Yeah, that was definitely me sniggering in the background. I couldn't hold it in with that introduction. But I think that is the perfect introduction for us as well. Hope everyone's doing well. GeneralSound's here too.
Yo, what's up, guys?
No, the dude
I'm-
does does hosting for 1 week, and suddenly he's taking my job away from me.
He's taking us to the second spot of the introduction as well, which is a bit
Yeah,
tilting me
you're
now.
this guy.
It's like normally I'm
That
second.
was all his fault, yeah. And we're joined, of course, as you can see, by special guest, Paragon.
Hey everyone, thanks for inviting me.
Sorry, that long pause is not because I couldn't remember your name, it's because I was deciding which name to use because you have 2 names. So that seems like a good place to start before we get into the nitty-gritty of things. So why don't you tell us why you have 2 names? I know it's a really long-winded story, but we've got plenty of time. So take your time.
It's actually a fairly easy question for me to answer. My main alias is actually Swing Life Away, but that's one character too long for Battle.net. So Paragon is the name I used since I played Dota on Warcraft 3. So I just defaulted back to that for Battle.net.
That is like the most hilarious story. That's also so sad because your name isn't even like, you can't even leave a letter out and it will still make sense because it's either like
it's pretty
Swung
depressing.
Life or a Y, you know.
Swing Life Away.
You know.
Not
I
bad.
think we could just call him that from now on. I mean, we can be the Battle.net that he never
mean,
had.
Yeah.
You could just not. as well.
Well, that sounds like
Or
confirmation.
you can just go.
Swing,
You could go.
Swing Life a Y.
We could just go short and just swing life Y, like you know.
Sling. So I think that's still the same. That's why I showed it, yeah. So Paragon, Swing Life a Y. You are, of course, a member of one of the newer teams to the division stage of VS Gaming, and that's Chronic Wolfpack, not to be confused with your sister team, Chronic Underdogs, who, of course, made a big impact on us here at Echo Point Cape Town in Leg 2, but unfortunately had to drop out in Leg 3. So tell us a bit how you got in touch with Chronic Wolfpack and how you guys are finding your first leg of division play.
Yeah, cool. Well, basically, it goes all the way back to one of the older teams that we were a part of that's no longer around, Regicide, which then changed to Retribution. A lot of the current members of Wolfpack were initial members in Regicide. So basically, when we went through some problems there and Regicide disbanded, we already had a kind of nice scrim relationship with Chronic Underdogs, and some of us were approached by Hemisphere who basically didn't want to see the talent we had go to waste, so he suggested that we form a team under the Chronic banner. He would help us, and that he did, and that's basically where Chronic Wolfpack began. The only players that were not in the initial Regicide team that are in the team now are Sanshin and Dark Teddy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you guys joined Chronic, sister team to Wolfpack. Sorry, I'm just gathering my thoughts here. I got distracted briefly. So tell us a little bit how you got into Overwatch in the first place. You said you played a bit of Warcraft 3, Dota rather.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to start playing Overwatch?
Yeah, so originally I was always kind of a MOBA player. I never really preferred FPS. I did enjoy FPS, but not really in a competitive environment. When it came around to like Modern Warfare 2 and stuff, that was always fun to play at LANs, but even online I didn't play that much. When Overwatch was announced, I just got really into the universe, and I really enjoyed the kind of vision that Blizzard and the Overwatch dev team had for the game. So I thought, you know what, this is going to be great. I did play a bit of Team Fortress 2 as well. So definitely the whole hero battle arena kind of thing appealed to me. And yeah, I kind of just got tired of MOBAs as well. So
you're literally
needed a bit of a
describing
change.
me. It's actually very concerning that
Yeah.
you're not just telling my own story, because I have like the exact same experience of like 3,000 hours in Dota 2. Kind of was getting bored at Dota 2. Overwatch beta came out, was enjoying watching people play that.
Yeah.
Played it myself in open beta,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is actually my game now.
Yeah, so same
And
here. I also played in the open beta, and as soon as that open beta hit, I played a few games. I realized that I was probably going to be playing this for a while.
yeah, so when I knew that I was done with all the other games, and let me just say for any AAA developers listening, or all of them that are listening to this podcast, because we're so popular, um, open betas, if your game is good, is a great way to market your game. Because before the open beta for Overwatch, I didn't care about the game. I was familiar with it, was blowing up, and I was like, okay, it looks okay, but I'm not really that into it. And then I played the open beta, and that weekend the open beta ended, I was like, oh, I don't actually want to play anything else until this game comes out. I was like down. I just wanted to play more and more
Yeah.
Overwatch.
I think I was the same way with like I heard about it, I heard rumors about it, I heard it was like a bit like Team Fortress, and I wasn't expecting something to be so well done. And I played a bit of it and I was addicted. I remember picking up McCree and that was it McCree
Yeah.
or Soldier? I can't remember, and I just loved it. I just wanted to play more, definitely.
Yeah, I also played like 500 hours of TF2 as well. So I was in that frame of reference, but I never, for some reason, Overwatch didn't click with me until I played it. And then once I played it, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is my game now. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think it's quite a familiar story for a lot of people, I'm sure. So yeah, I think you guys have any more questions?
Yeah, like talk about what role do you play for Chronic Underdogs, Paragon, and how you
Sure.
going about like developing your skill as because just to spoiler alert to everyone listening, is a main tank, and what you do to like improve your skill.
Yeah, so basically I started out as a main tank kind of out of almost necessity. When I started playing Overwatch, I would pretty much just try and fill every game, and generally the standout role that needed filling was main tank. So
Usually
I
the
just
case.
kind of picked up the Reinhardt hammer and started from there. I find him to be an incredibly fun hero, not only when I'm playing casually, but also competitively. I think he's fun in both kind of roles. So
Okay.
it really just developed from there. When we started with Regicide, I kind of got put on the role. And yeah, it kind of just started working it my way up from there. With Reinhardt, yeah, I'm currently well known for my hyper aggressive play and incredibly wild charges.
It's the only way to play Reinhardt.
Yeah, that's currently something
You can
I'm
tell
actually
that
working
is
on.
not a Reinhardt player who said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, currently working on improving that. Trying to be a bit more selective with my engagements and things like that. So that's kind of one way I'm looking at developing my Reinhardt play. But also I'm trying to expand my hero pool as well. I have recently improved a lot on Zarya, even though she is an off tank. But I just want to have an off tank in my hero pool just
Yeah.
in case.
And because you're main tank, do you do a lot of Winston as well?
Winston, I don't I don't personally enjoy him a lot. I can play him to some extent. I'm not the greatest Winston, but I feel like I can kind of get the job done.
Cool.
As with other main tanks, I have also recently been putting quite a few hours into Orisa. I feel like she's an incredibly strong pick defensively. She's got a really specialized kit for a kind of bunker composition.
Yeah.
So she can kind of has the edge on Reinhardt in that regard. But I am, of course, way more comfortable on Reinhardt just because I feel like he's a lot more versatile, and it's a lot more adaptable to various different situations and compositions.
So you were saying that you sit a lot with like looking at your playstyle now, trying to change your playstyle. Can you just like let us know how you go through like improving your individual skills?
Sure. So a lot of what I do is generally after a match, I'll immediately go and watch the VOD. I kind of can't wait. I'm a bit impatient like that.
Do you record it or do you watch the VOD that was streamed?
I generally watch the VOD that was streamed because I feel like the commentary from the casters offers a lot of valuable insight into the game, and the kind of things that I might not have thought about. It's basically like getting coaching for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to do that, but it gives me a kind of good perspective on myself. Being the main tank, you kind of have a very big impact on the fight, so you can kind of tell when you do something and then the way the enemy team reacts. You can kind of tell what's good and what's bad, especially in regards to like what different composition the enemy team is playing. So, for example, last week when we played Equinox, they played a very high line against us. The Blur was right in my face the whole match. He was getting some really good picks. So I know that I need to maybe work a bit more on my defensive play because I often left my team exposed, which was quite bad. So yeah, I mean that's the main thing that I've got to work on right now, as well as kind of preventing the tilt. Cause, yeah, man, I'm not gonna lie, I get tilted. But,
yeah, I know when your main tank tilts, it's like it translates to the whole team. I've noticed.
Yeah, so I need to kind of work on that.
Yeah.
And you need that main tank to be very solid, like in play and also mentally.
Yeah, no hundreds. So that's definitely what I'm trying to work on right now. But also, yeah, just trying to kind of hold back my charges and be more selective. So, yeah, hopefully I won't be leaving our main healer exposed.
From that.
Hey, sometimes
sniper.
that's the main healer's fault as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I want to kind of, going into the team and everything and being in the competitive environment, while I agree that it is important to develop as a team, a large reason of why I'm doing this is to develop myself as a player.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is for my own personal benefit. I don't know if that's selfish to say.
No, it's
but yeah,
definitely agree with you on that point. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I want to try and be the best player I can be. So I generally try and focus on that above other things. That's why I say that I get tilted, because sometimes I lose sight of my own gameplay and I'm just like, oh dude, why did you do that?
I think this is the perfect time for me to ask for
fair enough.
the best rendition you can give for the Reinhardt's BM emote that we heard there when you were playing at BC and you were taken out directly afterwards at the gates of Eichenwald there.
Yeah, that was actually it's not really meant to be BM. It's kind of just like I kind of wanted to just have like a signature kind of thing that you could identify me with.
Signature moment almost.
Yeah, kind of. So the thing is, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just kind of like, okay, well, this push is going really well. Like, they're probably going to be around the corner. And then the door broke, and I was mid-emote, and they were right in my face. And I was like, oh. Like, I actually laughed really loud.
Lesson learned, eh?
Lesson learned indeed, but God, it was worth it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think anyone is ever going to forget that, especially not defect over on DD's minion side.
Well, we'll come into that in when we get there, I think. I've got one last question for you before we move on.
Sure.
What do you think of our newest hero, Mr. Hammond, the Wrecking Ball, or whatever they decided to call him? Where do you think he fits in the meta? Do you think he's particularly strong? Have you had a chance to play him? Anything like that?
Yeah, so I have played him a bit. We have played him as well in practice to kind of try and see what compositions he works well with. I think he's actually a very good addition to the roster. He's very strong, not going to lie. He's very good at creating space for his team and kind of just opening the fight up a lot. So kind of working against Death Ball teams and even bunker teams, he can kind of just cause chaos and break them apart and give his team a lot more space to kind of get picks and perform. In that regard, I think he works really well in a dive composition. He can work pretty well with in a kind of a trip tank dive, almost with a D.Va and a Winston.
Yeah.
two supports and one DPS. At least that's what we've tried so far, but we haven't really done it obviously in a competitive environment yet. So
I'm sure
maybe
as,
I'm wrong.
as your Hammond player is letting me hear as well still. So.
Yeah. So obviously, he's definitely filling in the off-tank role. So Sanshin is focusing on learning Wrecking Ball for Wolfpack right now.
Okay.
So I'm not too concerned with the hero, though I must say he is a lot of fun and he is absolutely ridiculous in custom games. You should try turning the gravity off and putting speed to 500%. It is ridiculous.
That sounds
So
insane.
I definitely want to try it.
So I think that's a good way to segue onto the next kind of discussion point. I think we should talk a little bit about Hammy as a group in general. And speaking of General, why don't you give me your opinion as Phoenix Rising off tank player? What do you think of Hammond?
I played him a bit in quick play. I think he's very strong, very very mobile, as Paragon was saying. Definitely, I see him fit more in a role in the dive composition. Could possibly even be a player that can flank. You can even use him as like a little hybrid, little tank.
Flanking DPS
yes,
type
yeah.
thing, yeah.
Get in, kill the Zenyatta, get out type of situation, type of play style.
Split the composition, the enemy composition.
And you can actually, like, I've tried it in, I tried it last night. We were 6-stacking with a couple of friends of mine. And what I did was I went straight into the enemy, like in between a death ball, like a full Reinhardt death ball. Pressed E, got my shields. I was like 1000 HP, killed the Zenyatta and got out again. So he's really tanky in that type of situation. So
yeah,
that's where he benefits the most, especially if there's like 6 heroes around him. He's gonna get a lot of shields. You can take a pick and then just get the hell out. So I think once we start seeing the pros play him, how they're gonna be abusing that mechanic, is gonna be very interesting. You can it's crazy because what I did was I literally flew in the air and pressed control his slam, and then pressed E, got all the shields, shot, killed the Zenyatta and just bounced, and that was quite a highlight for me. I was like, wow. And
keeping in mind, if you've got your team pushing forward as well, holding a high line, that puts a lot of pressure on the enemy team because they've kind of got to focus on this giant monster with 1000 HP in the middle of their team, killing their supports, and then also the enemy tanks pushing from the front as well. 100%. So that kind of splits their attention a lot.
And he's a fast hero. I have it's yet to see when you've been played at a high level, but when you're spinning around and the McCree's trying to shoot you, it's hilarious. You can see them they at full speed they struggle.
Now, before I come to you, CloudBurst, Jen, give me a sense, in Paragon you can comment as well on what do you think some of the weaknesses are of Hammond. We've talked a lot about how good he is. What makes him bad?
He can get from CC abilities, he can get caught out. Like a good Roadhog can hook him in. He can, when he gets hacked, he's useless. He can't get out. So the thing about Hammond for me is that you have to put yourself in those situations where you take a high risk. It's like a high risk, high reward character, almost like Doomfist. If you if you pull out his abilities, he's useless. You know what I mean? So, and he doesn't do enough damage with his guns to be that effective. It's not overpowered, his guns.
He's probably I would say definitely the lowest damage off tank.
Yeah. So that's his weakness. So if you can just bait out his abilities, get some CC characters to counter that, then yes, that's his weakness in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. I think he's very much a jump in, jump out kind of hero. He does have the shield, but I don't feel like he has a lot of staying potential. Once he's in the fight and people kind of turn their awareness to him, he's got a really big hitbox. So things like a Reaper or a Roadhog.
That's an important point. The size of the hitbox and the shape of it makes it so easy to do a ton of damage to him.
They're going to absolutely shred him once their attention is focused on him. So he needs to get in, create that space, and then let his team kind of take over. And then he can hop out, get some healing, and then jump back in and cause more chaos.
You might see there's those old hybrid comps where you'll maybe get a Winston Zarya with him, triple tank. To bubble him, or even the defense matrix can work, but I find bubble because with him getting a bubble, Zarya will get so charged.
And then you can also fit a Hanzo in the DPS so that you have the combo as well.
100%. Hanzo's seeing some nerfs. Maybe we'll run through these a bit later when we go through the teams. But a lot of there was a big kind of balance patch that came with Hammond, and Hanzo getting nerfs, hit scan heroes getting all of them pretty much getting buffs. So a lot of changes in that way as well. Also, they fixed a bug, is what they called it, where you can damage boost the Hanzo's Dragon Strike is the major one there.
A bug, yeah.
You can't do that anymore. But that was a bug, not intended.
I don't believe that was for me. That it was in the game for so long.
Yeah, it
And
felt
it- and-
pretty intentional.
Yeah.
I
I'm
kind of
pretty
think,
sure they also said it was intentional, which was what irked me the most.
Yeah.
But just flipping own up to it, guys. Come on. Anyways, that's besides the point. Cloud, give me your opinions of Hammond, and maybe let's take a different spin of it. Are you looking forward to seeing Hammond in your games, in your casts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that he's a very exciting character. He brings us the type of mobility and speed that we haven't really seen in other characters all that much. The one thing about his hook, for example, that allows him, it gives him the access that he can move around on, is it's persistent, and a lot of other abilities aren't persistent like that. So it can continue for quite a long time, and that changes the dynamic of a fight quite a lot. Of course, it's not necessarily good to stay in one place and use it, but
Just spin around a pillar, yeah.
yeah, but in some occasions that could work, and
Yeah.
it's going to be exciting to see a completely different turn on the way that characters are played. Seeing as, I mean, I would almost label it as a channeled ability in the way
Yeah.
that you're going to hold it in and it changes
Yeah.
the way that you're playing and locks out all your other abilities.
Mhm.
And usually those channel abilities are quick little things that happen just for a short amount of time in the channel period. So I'm excited to see what happens with him.
Yeah.
And hopefully with him, and especially the changes to the nerfs and the buffs coming through, there's quite a lot of balance changes happening. It might change the way the fights go. At the moment, we're having very long, drawn-out, brawlish fights where you'll see players come back into the fight and it's still continuing after they die
Yeah.
and things like that. Maybe this will speed it up a bit if Hammond becomes
Yeah,
quite a meta pick.
I was already thinking in my head now, like, is like, for example, Zenyatta has like transcendence and wants to clutch the last point. Hammond can just spin around the payload. You know what I mean? hit that Hammond.
Yeah,
Hammond just hits him away. You know what I mean? The whole time. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting players coming out here, definitely.
Yeah, and I think something that's that's probably going to be one of the biggest points that separate the good Hammonds to the bad Hammonds, and also I'm going to have to get used to calling him Wrecking Ball
Well, yeah.
because we all know that himself does not. Well, he
Now,
himself does not like
if
being
you
called
think you have to get used to calling him Wrecking Ball, remember that we have a player on our team called Hammy.
Oh my word!
You're busy saying Hammy X, Hammy Y. Now you're talking
like-
about Hammy the hero, Hammy the man.
Yeah, it was happening quite a bit
Hammy the
last night.
man.
It was so confusing because you end up talking to Hammy and calling him Hammond, and vice versa. And you say Hammy behind, and it's like, what are you talking about? I'm in the front. Should I go behind? It's so confusing. We're gonna
We
have
might
to figure
just
out
start.
some way to solve that issue.
Yeah, I
And-
feel like there's going to be a shortened version of his name soon. Probably he might even just be like WB
Well,
or.
the problem is W is like 500 syllables long, so it's like
That's true.
longer to say than Hammond, you know? Just that one letter is longer than his whole alternative name. But
I'm not sure.
that's something we're gonna have to just figure out. I don't even know how you solve that problem, unless Hammy changes his name or we call him something else. Hammy's real name is also, Hammy is short for his actual name, so you can't even just call him by his first name. It's very
Completely non-optimal.
yeah. So, anyways, that's Wrecking Ball. He's currently live in Overwatch. He will be live in BS when he goes live in competitive mode.
When's he live in competitive? Is it next week or following
Apparently,
week?
it's like 2 weeks. Apparently,
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's 2 weeks. It used to
Yeah.
be 3 weeks, right? And they reduced it to 2.
I used to be 1 week. I
It used
thought.
to be. There used to be very soon, like a week. Yeah. And now,
I thought it was like 1 week, 3 weeks,
then,
2 weeks.
then the last when was what was the last year? It was Brigitte. Yeah.
Brigitte was like 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, they waited for the
season.
next season. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like it that way because then it doesn't interfere that much with the current season because everybody's
Yeah.
used to it. Then you're playing in this one meta, and then all of a sudden this one hero comes in and screws the
Yeah.
whole meta, and
Confuses the stats.
everybody felt it. I don't think it was Brigitte because I know Brigitte came in the mid of season 11, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be
We saw
wrong.
Yeah,
changes to
yeah.
the limit row.
Yeah, but I know. Yeah, no,
say
it's
it
a
again
mo.
for me,
It's a.
I'm not
it's a
going
metra.
to.
It was actually some metro that came in the mid. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe.
So you're right about Brigitte.
Um, so yeah, that's Hammond. I think we'll move on to our usual discussion point, and that is kind of the teams and where they stand after the last week of play. So they've been in first division, not that much by way of developments near the top, right? We're kind of seeing the same thing we've been expecting to see in terms of net where teams are. So we've got
Yeah.
Equinox on top, Project Allflex in second, and Dominion, then Phoenix Rising. But now that's very misleading because you'll find that Equinox currently sitting on top and Project Allflex in second. Both have played 4 games, and the way it works in VS Gaming is a loss gives you 1 point. So even though they've only got 3 wins, they've got 10 points, whereas the teams on 3 wins and no losses have 9 points. So at the moment they're on top, but we're not expecting them to stay in first and second. So Dominion and Phoenix Rising, that's more where we're looking at the top, given that they've only played 3 games, but they both have 100% win rate in Nats. So Phoenix Rising, oh, it's me, it's us. I never know how to talk about it. I should just get used to it. But
It's cool. I'll talk about you guys.
okay, you go, Cloud.
So-
Please take the ball out of my hand.
So I'm just gonna like rein this in a bit here. Phoenix Rising, of course, as we said before, being relegated from Premier last leg over to First Division, they're definitely showing their prowess from what level they were playing at in Premier Division, able to keep it at 100% win rate. They were definitely favored from the very beginning of this leg to take First Division, be it first or second, depending on what else comes out of the teams. Because First Division, even though it's nowhere near Prem, they are pretty stacked at the moment with the names you've mentioned being Project Allflex, Dominion, and Equinox. So they are coming out on top with Dominion, 100% win rate so far. But I mean, there's not really much else to say about you guys other than that right now. This leg has been quite quick so far, and things have kind of gone the way that people have been expecting it. So
with
as much
one or
as
two
I-
exceptions for like 100%.
Yeah, but it's quite close. And I mean that's about as far as I can rein it in here. I mean, you guys definitely do still need to. I'm gonna stop saying you guys. I'm gonna say Phoenix Rising does definitely. They're able to take First Division on by storm, but there's still a lot of synergy they need to work on to take Prem Division
Yeah.
up the way they need to. So depending on what Phoenix Rising does in this time of leg 4 and the off season, that's really what's going to depend what's going to be happening going forward to Comic-Con for this team.
For sure. Just to clarify something, Dominion have actually played 4 games. It's just not updated yet on the standings page. So there are 3-0 in all 4 of their matches so far.
Oh yeah,
no.
They played their 5th match on Sunday.
that's actually my bad. I need to go accept that score.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
do that
you.
now.
You bad. I was gonna say one of the captains didn't accept the score,
Yeah.
so then I was like, oh yeah, you.
So Paragon, you played DDC and Phoenix Rising. What is, and I'm not sure what else you guys played. What is
We
your
played
take?
Equinox,
Equinox, yeah.
and Solstice.
And so far, what was the most like hardest game you guys played?
I'd say the most challenging game for us was probably Phoenix Rising.
You have to
Equinox,
say that.
it's definitely between Equinox and Phoenix Rising. DDC was a big challenge for us, but I felt like we did well. We just made a lot of basic mistakes. But I felt like if we managed to clean up those basic mistakes, we probably could have taken a map or 2 off of them. So yeah, I think I definitely have to say the hardest game out of those so far would be Phoenix Rising.
Interesting. Okay, so give us a quick prediction. Who do you think will take the game between Dominion and Phoenix Rising?
At this point, based on the matches I've played against either team, I would probably have to say Phoenix Rising. I feel like they are incredibly strong on Rialto, so that's going to be quite a big introduction to the game. It's always very important the first map because it kind of sets the tone for the remaining matches afterwards. So yeah, I definitely think Phoenix Rising would be my favorite for that matchup.
Okay. I'm inclined to believe you, but I'm not allowed to say that officially. So, um, so on that topic of you guys and Dominion, you guys played each other yesterday, I think it was.
Yes, correct.
So talk to us about you and Effect having a little bit of bands there. What sparked that? It's all in good.
Yeah, really, I think it was kind of just a bit of joking around, if anything. Obviously nothing personal. It kind of just started with what was it? He basically he asked me if I was the main tank player for Wolfpack, to which I replied yes. So he's like, "We're playing you next." So I said, "No, actually, we're playing Solstice." And then he replied something along the lines of, "Oh, but they're actually the round after. You just wanted to take the easy match first." So yeah, basically it all started from there. And it really was just a bit of banter. Obviously, I kind of embarrassed myself, but
yeah, well, as things turned out. Maybe.
yeah, as things turned out. But I mean, it's all good, really. It's all just a bit of fun. And I feel like the scene could use a little bit of banter.
No, you're 100% right. I know CloudBurst really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it greatly. I think that having these friendly rivalries between teams in a competitive scene like what we have is very, very healthy. And not just because of the interaction that the players get with each other. That's probably the number one thing, but I think that kind of goes without saying is that it's very good to have that. But for our scene overall, it paints a story for what we have going forward. And we can start looking back at this a year down the line, and either things go the same or they change completely. And that is a story that we get to run with from its inception until the very end. And that's something that the more of those we have, it's just going to get better and better because we get a nice landscape of our players' attitude with each other, any rivalries between teams, friendly, what would be the right word? Kind of teams that work together a lot that we see from a few other teams. It's nice to have that. It gives us a whole ecosystem and really shapes the competitive environment we have. So I love having banter between teams and between players in our community. It's the best.
Yeah, it is. It is really nice, and it's good that it's all good natured, like you say. So moving on from the top four, Equinox, all flex in first and second for now. But like we said, watch that space because that could be changing a lot. Equinox is facing Phoenix Rising on Sunday. All flex are playing against two. They still got to play this week. Solstice.
I just want to chime in. The table is updated. I accepted scores.
Okay, let's pop a cheeky refresh here on the page. And there it is. Dominion on top. Okay.
Okay. So things have changed.
Yeah. So Dominion now on top as they should be. Equinox in second, All Flex in third. All Flex are facing Solstice, like I said, on Sunday, and Equinox are facing Phoenix Rising. So I'm interested to see how we perform against them. Equinox are not a weak team, as they showed in their game against Interitus. They're a really strong team. We've spoken them up before, expecting them to finish in kind of that third, fourth place. So, and All Flex as well, a team we've had facing each other in our predictions for that third, fourth slot as well. So kind of like playing out like we predicted here. Cloud, you must still go back and record our predictions so we can see how we did at the end of the.
Yeah, we can match up exactly how things went.
Then we come down to Chronic Wolfpack, which you just spoke about, Paragon in fifth place. How are you guys feeling from your performance this leg, based on what you're expecting and what you're expecting going forward?
I actually feel like we're not doing that bad. I mean, we've got 2 wins, which I'm incredibly happy with. Basically, our main objective with getting into first div, we didn't actually expect to get into first div this leg, so it was a nice bit of
Surprise,
what's the word? Yeah, I mean, it was a good surprise for us. And basically from there, we just kind of decided, okay,
was that
let's.
It was me. It was CloudBurst.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay, because it's NDCs that stream DCs as well.
Rip. Anyways, yeah, we kind of just decided, okay, well, this is going to be some really good experience from us coming out of ladder straight into first div. We're going to play against a lot of good teams with a lot more experience than ours, so basically for us, it's a it's meant to be a learning experience, and that's kind of what we're focusing on. And I feel like we're improving quite a bit. So yeah, I'm quite happy.
Awesome. I think that's a good attitude to have. You can't come in expecting too much, but you don't want to undersell yourself either. So
Yeah.
your games that you've got left are All Flicks, Evolution Esports, and I believe that's it.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling against those two teams? Let's start with Evo.
Well, yeah, we've got Evo coming up next week. I'm actually looking real forward to that game. Maestro was actually also in Regicide, so I have played with him before. He was actually playing off tank with me at the time,
Okay.
and he's since switched over to main tank, since joining Evo.
So you guys are gonna go head to head on
Yeah. We've got a bit of a friendly rivalry going there as well.
Please, more bans, more bans.
I want to
Paragon's
see.
just going to become this infamy
Yeah.
in our community.
Well, there's always got to
But-
be one guy. I feel
Yeah, I
like in
agree.
every competition, in every sport, I feel like there's always that one guy. I mean, if that's gonna be me,
Yeah.
then
I wa-
I'll bite the bullet.
this
I don't
time,
mind.
I want to see tweets. I want to see mentions. Everything.
Oh yeah. I'll have to see. But anyways, yeah, I feel like that's gonna be quite a good game for us. I feel like we do have the potential to go in and win it. So yeah, I mean, we're just gonna try and play our best and see how far we can go.
I think that is going to be a very close game. We'll come on to Evo in a moment, but I think you guys are quite closely matched. And then Project Allflix, what are you expecting against them?
I feel like that's going to be a bit more of a tougher game. It's kind of hard to say because, if I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually watched a lot of Project Allflix's matches, so I'm definitely going to be doing some research on them before the game. But as of this moment, it's not scheduled yet. So I'm kind of putting all my priority onto Evo right now.
Okay, but it's likely it'll be Wednesday or Sunday.
That actually pulls it.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. So do you do all the analysis for the team? And
I wouldn't say I do all the analysis for a team. It's kind of largely a group effort.
Yeah.
I do also kind of consult with some other players from First Div. So I got to give a shout out to Blur
Yeah.
from Equinox. He's been really great. He's given me a lot of Reinhardt tips. And also he's given a lot of general coordination tips for our team as well.
Okay.
So we consider it kind of like a group effort.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
So you go like, how do you go about like doing this tips for the team? Like, is it strat call? Is it like strats? You work on strats together? What?
So yeah, essentially, basically, what we kind of do is we kind of watch VODs. We've developed some strats. I don't know if you watched the game against DDC last night, but on Rialto, we kind of had that one strat where we go left and we go all the way around under the high ground, and then we kind of try and forcibly kick them off high ground and then move the payload after. So the problem we had last night is that we left the payload stalled for a little while. Basically, the whole aim there is to just try and kick them off the high ground, force them into the courtyard, and then forcibly hold the choke until you can get the payload there, and then use the payload as cover to break into the courtyard.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't quite fall for us that way last night because we got too many picked off before we could get the payload to where it needed to be. But yeah, that's exactly kind of how it goes. We watch the VOD, we see where we made mistakes, and we kind of just improve from there.
It actually excites me that a lot of the Division 1 teams are actually doing these type of practices and analysis, because that's what Overwatch is all about. It's a team game. It's how you counter your enemy team, for like doing the research on your enemy team as well, knowing what they're gonna come up on X, Y, and Z maps, so that you know what I mean. Just all this time you guys are putting in really excites me. I'm happy to see a Division 1 teams doing this.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, and it is Division 1 teams. I can't think of any team that's not grinding, working really hard to improve themselves, which is not like it was last year, for example. So that is really awesome to see. And then, so we move on now towards the bottom of the standings here. We've got Evolution Esports kind of on an island with Chronicle Pack, I think, making up that 5th and 6th spot. I'm, like I said, very excited to see how you guys perform against each other.
Yeah.
They're not quite performing where we were expecting them to perform.
I've watched the game against DDC, and I found that like they're so close on like having such a good team. Like it's like against DDC, they managed. It was on Dorado. They managed to push. You casted that game, Cloud. I think we spoke about it last week as well.
Yes,
They managed to
Wait,
push
this was Evo versus?
versus DDC,
DDC.
and
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
you did, yeah.
Yes, I
And
did. Yes.
they literally like lost the map in one fight.
Yeah, it
The
was
last
very
fight, yeah.
last second.
Yeah.
Yeah, last second of the last fight of the last meter.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just lost everything, and they were so close.
And what I'm noticing, like with these like teams that can't crack it, it's like it's always just like one thing. And what I notice is that the ult management is very like not to the standard of like a lot of good teams are. And if they get that right, Evo like just tracking ultimates and using their ults to counter the enemy ults, they'll be a really really good team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel a bit sorry for Evo because they have had some unfortunate roster changes with Albi having to step down and them having to shift the team around. So I feel like that's kind of unfortunate for them, but I'm sure they've got it in them to pull out some good plays. They have got a game in hand against us, so yeah, we'll see how they handle that pressure.
Yes. Okay, I see. So yeah, Evo Esports. Let's see how they do. Excited to see that match. They do play us as well on Sunday. They will play us at 6. I think Donnerman's here from a down to cast that one. It just depends on Sarah's availability. But we're looking forward to play them. They I think Jane will agree with me. Phoenix Rising. We're now coming on to the back end of the leg, and this is where every team we face is ramping up in difficulty. We've got us. Evo Esports, then next match at 8 we've got Equinox, then next week we've got All Flex, and then finally we've got Dominion. So we're working our way towards the top here. So it's going to be a difficult kind of set of weeks for us in that regard.
Definitely.
Then we've got the two teams at the bottom, Solstice and Interitus. So I'll start with Interitus because we've got some experience. Jen, we played them on Sunday, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that game and what do you think they need to work on? Currently they're at 0-4 with no maps on.
To be honest, I can't remember the game.
Yeah, it's tough.
It
feels the answer when you're playing because you're focused on what you're doing.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the roster now. Yeah, they I actually can't remember the game, to be honest. Like normally I will watch the VODs and look back at it, but the game that's like sticking to my mind the most is the Interitus game because we were at like role swaps in that game. And
yeah.
So yeah, it feels a bit of a
From my experience playing against Interitus, I feel like they are maybe suffering from some miscommunication. I don't know if they've had any major roster changes since the last leg. I'm not sure, but I feel like they could maybe be a bit more coordinated as a team. There were often times where in our game against them we could catch out half the team and generally split them up, divide and conquer quite easily. So I feel like maybe they need to kind of work on their general communication and coordination as a unit.
I find is a Interitus.
Yeah.
I find Department is actually a really good main tank. And
Department's very good.
I'm not gonna lie. There was one point in the match where I pulled out a shatter and he managed to reactively pull up shield in time to block the shockwave. So he's actually a very good Reinhardt player.
I think if they just develop a playstyle that plays around him, and enables him, I think they would be a much better team than
that's
they are now, currently.
That's the other thing I felt with them is that they didn't really have a kind of defined playstyle. I think they're not a bunch of bad players. I think they're all respectively fairly good at their roles that they've taken on. I feel like they just need to kind of define themselves a bit more as well.
Yeah.
So that brings us on to Solstice now. They're 0-4 as well, towards the bottom of the league table here. So I guess the match we're looking forward to is seeing them two play each other. Should be quite a close match, I think. But my opinion is that Solstice might come out on top of that. So let's talk a bit about Solstice. We played them in the first week.
Oh, was it the first week? Okay.
I think so. It might have been Wolfpack who played in the first week. I can't remember.
It was Wolfpack.
Yeah, it
who
was
played
us, yeah.
it was
Okay,
Wolfpack.
so we played them last
It
week.
feels so long ago.
Yeah, and we took him 3-0, quite similar to Inters, but I think we struggled against them a little bit more. They pushed us quite far in Kings Row, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're a team that has it in them. They just need to get it hooked up in the right place at the right time. Have you played them yet, Paragon?
Yeah, we have played them. We played them on Wednesday night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like they kind of know what they're doing. They have a general sense. I feel like maybe they just need to practice it out a bit more. I feel like maybe there needs to be some mechanics training as well. I felt like their mechanics let them down at a few points in the match,
Okay.
where they couldn't quite pull combo off because they missed the grab or they missed the dragon strike. So I feel like if they polish their mechanics a bit and just get some more hours in, I definitely feel like they'll perform a lot better.
Okay, and that is reflected in the skill rating average. They are currently, I believe, according to Vision's doc, the lowest ranked team in the division. So, you know, something perhaps they need to work on is just getting that individual skill up.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that kind of wraps up first division for us. Cloud, do you have anything you want to add?
Nothing that hasn't really been covered.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And we're expecting to see Phoenix Rising and Dominion fighting it out for the top of this group, but it's very easy for Equinox or Project Allflex to throw a spanner in the works there. Both have games in hand against Phoenix Rising.
I
So
think
excited to see how that one plays out.
This 2 weeks is gonna define. Like once this week is over, we'll start to get a general idea of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, if we take both our games on Sunday, we're sitting pretty to come out at least second.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Premier Division now. Now, I'm going to give you an interesting stat about Premier Division. Every single game, without fail, has been a 3-0.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So
That's crazy for almost 3 weeks of action. I mean, we have 4 matches on Sunday. Everything being a 3-0. That's pretty crazy.
16 matches, all ending in 3-0. So we spoke last week at length, and Typical challenged us on that, about this division between the top 4 and the bottom 4 in Premier Division. Are we seeing anything to dissuade us from thinking that's how it's going to go? Or are we starting to see the teams challenge each other, the two tiers?
I'm still on that side where
I'll for a bit quick, and then I'll take.
Yeah, just looking at the table, you can still quite clearly see there's a divide. Fourth place with a win rate of 66% and fifth place with a win rate of 25%.
We just need to remember that GG in fourth place at the moment is sitting with a game in hand.
Yeah.
So who are they playing next? I'm not.
They're playing. They've got BZK and
Eden, both for Sunday.
Oh, good one. They got a tough Sunday. Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no easy Sundays in Prem, so. I think we're expecting them, and that's going to really decide if our top 4, bottom 4 theory is correct. Is that BZK game? If Goliath Gaming beat BZK 3-0, it's going to solidify them in the top 4, and it's going to solidify BZK probably in 5th place, I think. But let's jump back up to the top now, and here's where things start to get interesting. Now, we've called the episode Resurgence. My intention was to call it Full Circle, but I'll be honest, I just forgot now in the last 5 minutes when I was doing the episode.
Resurgence also sounds way better.
It does, but Full Circle better describes what I'm trying to get at. So if you look at Boosters, White Rabbit Gaming, we're seeing them now stamp their foot on the competition again, like they did in first leg. First leg, Premier Division, we didn't know what we were going to see. And at the end of it all, Boosters came up on top after beating Eden 3-1, sorry. A really exciting match and really showing that they are the team to beat. Now, in second leg and third leg, not performing quite to the standards we were expecting them to, given their first leg performance. I think losing Gastlee and having to break in a new off tank and switching some roles around, etc., that kind of thing really brought them down. Now, Jen, you can comment here. They've switched back to their normal roles, I believe,
Yeah.
where they've got, and CloudBurst, you casted them as well, where they've
Yeah.
got Vision's back on that
As a
flex support
support,
role,
yeah.
Kraken's back on his off-tank role, and now it looks like
I
they
think,
are back in business.
in my opinion, Visions in the back there, he's such a strong shot caller, and has been showing with his time at Eden as well, and his knowledge, his in-depth knowledge of Overwatch, he just can guide the team, from that back line.
Yeah. So
And
sorry,
Yeah.
just let me make the point here. They beat, the reason I'm going on about them like the second coming is because they beat Unidentified 3-0 in their match on Sun this week or last week. So that is, for us, we really hyped up Unidentified, and to see White Rabbit Gaming sweep them aside. They also beat Goliath as well, I believe. To see them to sweep those two teams aside in what looks to be quite simple matches is quite surprising, and it shows they're back up to, or back up near to where they were in Leg 1.
yeah.
Sorry, carry on, Jim.
No, it's cool. You covered everything, but I think, that change, having Visions on support and Krakens on off tank, is a swap that the team needed. That's what we were all assuming when Krakens joined the roster, because Krakens come from Pulse, also playing off tank for such a long time.
Yeah.
And I understand when Barnacle did explain to me a while ago the switch, what they were trying. But I remember Barnacle was telling me that the reason why they moved Krakens to the support and Visions to off tank was because they didn't want the transition from changing the front line, and that the cohesion that Chup
between the two tanks.
and Gastlee had. It takes a while to develop that type of cohesion, and they were scared that was going to take some time. And it just proves also how strong of a off-tank player Krakens is. It showed against Unidentified, the way they were holding first point, for example, on Rialto. They literally had complete map control against them. Like, there was a point where Unidentified didn't know how to enter the little alleyway, or whatever you want to call it, courtyard in Rialto.
Something I'd add there is, sorry to interject.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Later on in that, in those matches played between WRG and Unidentified, something great that I saw on Booster side talking about Krakens and Jub, the synergy between them, they've definitely got it. Watching that dive work between their Winston and Diva respectively was fantastic. They were almost in perfect sync throughout some of those fights, and I think that's really a really good sign. And having that strong front line is, especially with Visions at the back, it really opens up so that their DPS can just run wild. And Barnacle did run pretty wild on the Genji there a few times. So
he does that. That's what he does. He runs wild on the Genji, and he plays a mean hit scan as well.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Cloud. They were running dive like 90 to 100% of the time against.
Yeah, they swapped. They innovated a bit every now and then. They swapped it about a bit, but most of the time it was quite a dive-centric composition. And I mean, I'm sure we can put the VODs for those games in the description once we get a VOD up of this as well, so that people can see what we're talking about.
I'll definitely do that.
Just to jump in on this bandwagon, another thing I think makes a difference is Vision's ability to shot call, perhaps, from that support position versus the off-tank or DPS. He was kind of mixing between those two. As someone who's made that exact transition, it's so much easier to think when you're playing a flex support than it is when you're playing an off-tank. When you're playing an off-tank, you've got to be doing things all the time. You're working, you're moving. Where you are matters to keep your teammates alive, to keep yourself alive, and you're a big out battery as well. A lot of the time, it's so much going on. It's quite hard to lead without leading by example, and that changes the dynamic of a team and how it works. So I think making that switch allows, perhaps, I don't know, I'm theorizing here, perhaps allows Visions to think more critically about the game, control his teammates a bit better, because he's sitting behind them. He can say, okay, you need to do this, if that is his style. I suspect they have a more fluid style than that, but go with me, I guess.
And
He-
guessing. Yeah, sorry. So continue.
Yeah, he's able to control the flow of the game, control the flow of his
Yeah.
team, track ultimates better, that kind of thing. I think could also be a part of why their performance has taken such a marked step up.
Yeah.
So
And
that's go for it, Jen.
yeah, I can imagine that like Visions is very vocal, and him just shouting when he needs peels, and just like puts more like calmness to the team, what they need to do. And I could see that like if Visions was getting dived, there was always either Jupe or Kraken's coming back to help him, and or Barnacle just throwing rockets down that way. And yeah, it was cool to see that there was the cohesion of like Busios that we remember from the first and second legs is back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the first leg.
So that's the top of the leg, unidentified, still sitting pretty, but they are a loss down. And knowing their previous performance against Eden, probably expecting Eden to take that second spot away from them. And then we're looking again, like we did in leg 1 at WRG versus Eden. That is the game we all want to see.
I think it's been like that for just about every leg going forward. I mean,
You're right.
These are the two. There are poster boy or poster child teams for competitive Overwatch in South Africa. They're definitely on top there. So whenever they clash, it's quite the spectacle, to say the least.
For sure. Unfortunately, we don't have that game scheduled just yet because Eden loves to keep us all in suspense. But as soon as we know when that's happening, that's going to be a must-cast game. We'll be sure to get that one covered. So yeah, we spoke about Eden just a little bit. I don't think anyone has much to say about Eden. They're the strongest team. They're the team you got to topple if you want to be the best in the country. And it's proved a tall order for everyone but White Rabbit Gaming, which is why we're getting so excited. Hoping to see White Rabbit go into Comic-Con at the top. It's a little bit of personal bias, but I'm tired of seeing Eden win everything. So I want to see somebody else near the top, at the top.
Like Cloud was saying, this is gonna start creating like a at least a story for when we see WRG Pusios versus Energy again. It's gonna create that hype that we once had in the first leg.
Yeah.
But in the second leg now it's gonna be like beginning of the season we thought it's gonna be a Eden show again, but now Pusios coming back and fixed a bit of their problems. We'll see a really good game. And Cloud,
yeah,
I'm
expecting something really good, but Eden is a way of just pulling it out and being like, no, I'm sorry, we're better than you, so we're just gonna win.
Like Barney says, don't pick
last time they played, just jump in there. Lucky Luke was still on Pulse Gaming, so that's a big kind of swing. That he is a carry player, a playmaking
100%.
player. And they've got 5-6 carry players on their team now. So maybe this team is just unassailable, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, I actually forgot what you killed my train of thought. But anyway,
my train of thought was so good it killed yours. So let's head now towards the bottom of the leg. Now, just to remind you guys, bottom two, so that's 7th and 8th, currently Oddity and Perseus Race, they will face the top two of First Division once the leg's completed. They will face what we presume to be Dominion and Phoenix Rising in a playoff cup, and the top two of that playoff cup will proceed to Comic-Con, so it'll be at Comic-Con. Now, we've got BZK sitting pretty in that 5th spot. Are we expecting any movement from them? I think I'll jump in here and be the first to say I think they're a cut above Prodigy, but Prodigy have beaten them before, so we'll have to see how they deal with that. If they can keep their heads about them, keep their wits about them, they can take that game. But if Prodigy put them on the back foot, Prodigy is going to be able to run with that. So that is another game, a rematch from leg 3 that we're going to want to see.
Yeah.
A rematch, in fact, or the first match, in fact, sparked a whole kind of controversial conversation about international. So I'm interested to see if BZK can overcome them this time.
Yeah. So Paragon, any thoughts on Premier Division? Have you been watching? Who's your favorite team at the moment? I think we lost Paragon.
He's
No,
muted
no,
himself.
no, I'm still here. Yeah,
Mike just muted.
unfortunately, I haven't been watching a lot of Prem. And the only team in Prem that I've actually played against, we played against 8-Bit Oddity. We had a scrim against them.
Okay.
When
How did
we
you
wanted.
perform against them out of interest? I'm very interested to know how they stack up.
Honestly, it was pretty tough. They're a very good team. They generally kind of edged us out on Rialto. We were kind of focusing on Rialto practice.
Okay.
So yeah, they edged us out a bit. Just with experience. And I think their standard of quality of their players is a bit higher than ours. So yeah, we didn't do too great.
Okay.
But yeah, I feel like if I had to give myself a favorite team in Prem, it would probably be Boostios. Just because I feel like they are the kind of plucky underweights that you want to support, you want to see win.
You can tell he's never played against them.
Well, well, I mean, it's not so much that. It's more just like when I was coming into the scene, everybody going on about Eden, and then all of a sudden, everybody started talking about Boostios, like showing them up. And for me, that was huge. I thought that was really cool. So, yeah, gotta give it to them.
That is 100% true. But the point I'm making is, when we play against Boosters, they don't feel like underweight underdogs. They feel like juggernauts. So
yeah,
I
mean,
definitely understand the point you're making for sure.
Yeah, I can see that as if you look at Boosters versus Eden and we just look at the history going back. But looking at, I mean, this is just disregarding Prem, the rest of Prem, which is understandable looking for a favorite team on the top.
Yeah.
It would be between those two. So I do understand that kind of point of view on it.
Yeah, 100%. So, 2 matches, BZK, they're in an interesting spot where they can beat any team and they can lose to any team, in my opinion. Maybe you guys have a different opinion on them. But Goliath Gaming, that's a game we've got to watch. If they can beat Goliath Gaming, that'll destroy our top 4, bottom 4 theory. And it should be an exciting match no matter what the result is. Then we come to Prodigy Rez. We were very uncertain about how they would perform, given that their roster's kind of in flux.
Yeah.
But I think if we'd had to base this on how they performed last leg, this is kind of exactly where we're expecting them to slot in, right? This 4th, 5th,
I think
6th position.
I think the key game for Prodigy will be against 2CP. To see where they stand this leg. They did beat them quite convincingly last leg. And this leg, we'll see how far 2CP has come to work as a team, and that's going to be a game I really want to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Knowing 2CP, they've been a team that's been together for so long, and they grind and want, like they have that drive to beat teams that they should be beating.
Yeah. For sure. That brings us on to 8-Bit Oddity and Perseus Reyes, our 2 bottom of the league teams, in a very similar position to the 2 bottom of the league teams in First Division, where they've got their own 4 in matches and 0 maps won. So, who do you think? Let's start with this. Who do you think of these 2 teams, which is the better team, based on anything you know about them? Let's start with you, Cloud, because.
Oh, that is such a difficult question.
Thank God it's not me first.
It's a difficult question is because we don't know much about Perseus. We haven't
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of them. They don't make a lot of noise in the chat. They made it to Prem, which is obviously good. Very, very surprising, I think, for many people, advancing over All Flex, and as it turned out, Equinox is also looking very strong. But we didn't get to see much of them play, and we don't hear a lot about them. So, yeah. Try and.
It is I think from my knowledge, 8-Bit Oddity has been together as a team for longer than Perseus Rez, of course.
Perseus had a lot of roster changes as well.
Yeah, they have been.
That's right. Jen can speak to us maybe a bit better than others of us.
Yeah, Jen would actually. Yeah, Jen would be the perfect person
so
to
with
talk
Perseus,
to, actually. Let's leave it to you.
So, for those who didn't know, that the captain at the beginning of this league was Chaotic, and I believe he left. He's no longer in the team.
That's the rumor and innuendo.
Yeah. So I don't know the the what happened behind the scenes or whatever.
Mm.
But I know he left. We had a bit of a chat. He told me, yeah, he's gonna start maybe next year, look for a new team. But anyway, besides the point, they are a team that have Kazuo. They had the same. I think they core roster with Muzzy Boy, Kazuo, Captain, and who's the fourth? Ash. They've been playing quite a while together, and I know Ash and Muzzy Boy really like. They improved quite a bit individually. There were players that were like gold when I met them, and now they're moving up the ladder. Where Ash is a bit like more in the diamond side, and Mozzie Boy is now in plat, and that within like 6 months, that's a huge improvement, like for any player.
Yeah, Ash is a standout player on
Yeah.
that team for me.
Yeah.
Really, really stellar hit scan player. His tracer is very scary.
Yeah, and for me, their weakness is they play too much around Kazuo, and for me, Kazuo is a good player. Don't get me wrong, but he's not on the level of what Prem like Masters and GM players are. He's
not going to carry it.
He's not going to carry. Yeah, so they need to like find their identity. Like no, like look here, what's their other strengths in the team and play around that. Rather, if Plan A is not working, and I haven't seen any of their games since last leg. And yeah, I would like for me in my power rankings they are at the bottom because of the playstyle they have. They rely too much on one player, and yeah, if they can work on a plan B or even a plan C, they will be a better team than what they think they are. Yeah.
So we'll come with this afterwards. I think I'd agree with you, Jen. I'd place Perseus at the bottom, Oddity above them. That's a game we're going to want to be casting. Should be a close game, should be an exciting game. I know 8-Bit Oddity is quite confident against Perseus, so I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
In practice. So that's the end of Premier Division now. I think what we were expecting to see is kind of playing out, but with the exception of White Rabbit really pulling out some performances and impressing us. So let's kind of... Actually, no, I'll save this for next week. Okay. So yeah, that brings us to the end of episode 9 of the COWSA podcast.
Yeah, I don't want any spoiler
By
alerts for
COWSA
next week.
podcast, I mean Eco Point, Cape Town. That's my bad. I started by slipping up and I ended by slipping up properly.
It's cool. That's there we go. Now you just incorporated the previous title into it, going full circle.
I'm actually a genius. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Except that I didn't call the episode full circle. Oh,
yeah. So you were this close to being a genius, and you slipped up.
I actually want to ask Paragon more of like a universal question, like what for you? What would you like your thoughts on the scene, like COWSA, your thoughts on where the scene could go to, like where you can head at, like in the future, what you're expecting, like those type of things. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, sure. I feel like the scene is very small, but it's very passionate. There's a lot of people all over the scene that are very proud of what they do, very happy to be a part of the community. So I feel like that's one of the big strengths we have. I do feel like it is unfortunate that the community is this small. I feel like with more teams and more representation, we could really go places. So I feel like that's one of the challenges that the scene kind of needs to overcome, and just getting more people interested in Overwatch and passionate about the game on the same level that everyone else is.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's a difficult one to solve, but it is something we have to work on. Is getting that team base and player base up. But it's only up from here. We're excited to see where things go, and I think we'll call it there.
Yep.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I want to quickly bring up that whilst we were live, there was an article that went out earlier today by TechGirl, following from when we had her on the show last week, which is quite nice to feature us three in an article that she wrote. Well, us four, Gastlee was included as well.
Yeah.
And Red Eye, Paul Shalona, of Code Red Esports, actually tweeted out a link with her article. Just to quickly read it out to you guys, just saying, reading this piece by Tech Girl Zede on South African Overwatch made me think, if South Africa can't field a team in Overwatch World Cup, why don't we get together and make an African Nations of Overwatch Cup? And he ends it out saying, I'm sure some Overwatch League teams will spot talent there too. Now, having this come from Red Eye himself, he's a massive player internationally for esports, especially being to my understanding, the owner of Code Red Esports, which is a talent management firm and an event management firm.
Yeah.
So having something like that being said and is really big for us. It gives us a lot of exposure. If there was the possibility of getting an African Nations Overwatch Cup going, I would be over the moon for something like that.
Like African contenders.
And African contenders, basically, because I mean, we have so many countries here, and I've only come across, I think, the whole time I played Overwatch, I think I've come across 2 African players from outside of South Africa, and not more than that. But I'm pretty sure that each country has its own little Overwatch community going, and if we could involve players from there and come up with something like this, I think it would be absolutely fantastic. Imagine seeing contenders level of
production value.
Yeah, production value. But we're seeing names like Goliath Gaming, Energy Esports, WRG Boostios, them playing at a contenders level of production against each other with quite a lot on the line, and the scrutiny of the world looking at individual players. That would be amazing. So I think it's something to definitely point out, and I didn't want to let it go unmentioned, and hopefully we can get some traction on this tweet as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel Overwatch is such a game that can carry the esports genre at the moment. It used to be Counter-Strike and Dota for such a while, but it has such, like, Blizzard created such a great platform for these type of, like, marketing structures, if you could say, and having African contenders, having, like, I see it happen in the Pacific now, and Tickle mentioned this last week. In Australia, like, they have their own contenders as well. And if Africa South America, it's, for me, like, Sam Tickle messaged in the chat now, the dream gents, and that's the dream, 100%. And this could be the foundation of that, of it happening.
Yeah, I mean, something of this, I think that for everyone who's watching this, if you could just pop a comment there, just saying that anything positive towards it, it's any traction right now could grow 20 times its size. So I think this is very important. And I know pugs are going right now, so a lot of people won't be seeing this, seeing the tweet I just posted in the general chat, but I really hope that we can get some push onto this, because I think something could come of this.
Yeah. Hopefully, I was I commented on Knoxville, made a comment as well, who's a big Dota 2 statistician, worked at TI, local guy as well. So there's people there seeing that. So it is very exciting. And I think on that high note, we'll end off today's show. Thanks so much for joining us, Paragon. I think you gave some very interesting and great insight into First Division.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, of course, to my usual co-host, GeneralSound.
Yeah, pleasure having me again.
I'm here. Thanks. And CloudBurst as well, of course.
Yeah, and Cloud, hello.
Yes, I'm right here. Thank you so much. Once again, it's been a great episode, and I hope that all the viewers have enjoyed it, and all you VOD watchers, I know you're there in the future.
Yeah, in the future.
Hope you enjoy watching it, listening in, getting some insight.
Yeah, my name's been SunPhoenix. Thanks so much for joining us. Pugs are going on now.
Yeah.
Head into the COWSA channel. Pugs, ! Pugs. Have some fun. And we'll see you guys next week.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for tuning in.